Why releasing the old makes space for life's greatest blessings. The invisible weight you didn't know you were carrying. Picture this: you're walking through a dense forest, carrying a massive backpack. At first, the weight feels manageable. But with each step, it gets heavier, pulling you down until you're struggling to take another step. You realize you've been holding on to things you don't need: rocks, broken tools, and scraps of things that once seemed valuable but are now just dead weight. This is the perfect metaphor for life, isn't it? So many of us move through our days carrying emotional, physical, or mental baggage from the past. We hold on to old resentments, outdated beliefs, broken relationships, and even toxic identities. Why? Because letting go feels too risky. It's easier to cling to what we know than to face the fear of the unknown. But here's the kicker: you cannot grab hold of new blessings while your hands are clutching the past. Jesus once said, "No one pours new wine into old wineskins." It's a simple statement, but it carries profound wisdom. Why would you hold on to a container that no longer serves its purpose? Why try to fit new, life-giving truths into a space that's already full of yesterday's regrets? What if the key to your joy, your peace, and your fulfillment lies not in adding more but in releasing what no longer serves you? Let's pause here. Take a deep breath. Now, ask yourself, what are you holding on to right now that no longer has a place in your life? Maybe it's a grudge against someone who hurt you. Maybe it's an outdated dream that no longer aligns with your true purpose. Or maybe it's the guilt of a mistake you made years ago. Whatever it is, it's worth examining. Because until you release it, you're trapped. And the hardest prisons to escape are the ones we build for ourselves. I know what you're thinking. But letting go is hard. What if I need that grudge to protect myself? What if I lose part of my identity by releasing the old? These are valid fears. Let me share a story. There was a young man who worked tirelessly to achieve success. He climbed the corporate ladder, collected accolades, and amassed wealth. But inside, he felt empty. He didn't understand why until he encountered a mentor who asked him a single question: "What have you sacrificed to carry all this?" The man realized he had been carrying the expectations of others for years, driven by the fear of failure and a desperate need for approval. Letting go of these old drivers felt terrifying. What would he be without them? But the moment he released them, space opened for joy, love, and meaning to flood his life. This is where faith comes in. To let go of the old, we must trust in something greater than ourselves. Trust that life has a way of filling empty spaces with exactly what we need, just as Christ's teachings remind us that the measure you use will be measured to you. When you release fear, trust takes its place. When you let go of resentment, forgiveness flows in. When you relinquish control, peace becomes possible. But here's a challenge for you. What if holding on is costing you more than you realize? Imagine a tightrope walker clutching a heavy suitcase. The suitcase might feel essential, but every step forward becomes more precarious because of the extra weight. How much farther could they go if they simply set it down? The truth is, life works the same way. We think we need to hold on to the old for security. But that very grip is what's keeping us from balance. Christ understood this deeply, which is why he spoke so often about surrender. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. That rest isn't just physical, it's the rest that comes when you release the weight of things you were never meant to carry. So here's my question to you: are you ready to let go? Are you ready to make space for life's greatest blessings? It won't be easy. But every great transformation starts with a single step. The first step is acknowledging the weight. The next is choosing to release it. But how? How do we release what feels so deeply ingrained in us? That's where we'll go next, into the heart of letting go. And why it's not just an act of courage but the ultimate act of faith. Stay with me. Because the next part is going to challenge everything you think you know about surrender. The courage to let go, how surrender leads to true freedom. Letting go isn't just an act, it's a leap of faith. It's standing on the edge of a cliff, staring into the unknown, and choosing to trust that the leap will lead to something greater. But what makes it so terrifying? Why do we cling so tightly to the things that hurt us, weigh us down, or hold us back? Think about this. When you hold on to something with all your strength, your hands cramp, your muscles ache, and you begin to tire. Eventually, the pain of holding on outweighs the fear of letting go. But what if you didn't wait for that breaking point? What if you could release willingly, with courage, before the pain becomes unbearable? Here's a truth that's hard to swallow. We hold on to the old because we confuse familiarity with safety. The toxic relationship, the self-doubt, the outdated beliefs, they might hurt us. But at least they're predictable. Releasing them feels like stepping into chaos. But here's where the teachings of Christ offer a powerful insight. True freedom lies on the other side of surrender. Remember the story of Peter walking on water? He was fine as long as he kept his eyes on Christ. But the moment he looked down and doubted, he began to sink. This story isn't just about faith, it's about focus. When we focus on the fears and uncertainties of letting go, we sink into despair. But when we focus on the possibilities, the blessings waiting to fill the space we create, we find the courage to take that step. Let's explore this practically. Imagine you're decluttering your home. At first, it's hard to let go of items with sentimental value. That old sweater from college, the box of unused gadgets, the furniture you never liked but kept because it was too good to throw away. But as you begin to release these items, you notice something surprising. The space you create feels lighter, freer, more open to possibilities. Suddenly, your home reflects who you are now, not who you were. Now apply this to your inner life. What would it feel like to clear out the emotional clutter, the regrets, the grudges, the fears? Imagine the lightness of walking through life unburdened, open to new experiences, new relationships, and new blessings. The paradox is that the act of surrender doesn't weaken you, it strengthens you. It takes courage to admit that you don't need to carry everything. That strength comes from trusting that the space you create will be filled with something better. But how do we find that courage? It begins with a question: what are you afraid of losing? If you're afraid of letting go of anger, is it because that anger has become your shield? If you're afraid of releasing an old dream, is it because that dream has defined your identity? Identifying your fear is the first step in overcoming it. Let me share a story of transformation. There was a woman who had been holding on to the pain of betrayal for years. She couldn't forgive the person who hurt her. And that bitterness began to seep into every corner of her life. One day, a friend asked her, "Who are you punishing by holding on to this anger?" The question hit her like a lightning bolt. She realized the only person suffering was herself. In that moment, she chose to forgive, not for the other person's sake, but for her own freedom. That act of release opened the door to joy she hadn't felt in decades. Forgiveness, in its essence, is an act of letting go. And it's one of the hardest things we can do. But Christ's teachings show us why it's worth it. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Give, and it will be given to you. These words remind us that what we release returns to us in greater measure. Forgiveness clears the heart, making room for love. Releasing fear opens the mind, allowing courage to take root. Letting go of control invites peace to flow. But here's a challenge for you. What if the life you dream of is waiting on the other side of your greatest fear? What if the blessings you long for are already prepared, but they can't reach you because your hands are full? This isn't just a hypothetical question, it's an invitation to act. So let's make this practical. Start with a small step. Write down one thing you've been holding on to that no longer serves you. It could be a grudge, a limiting belief, or even a possession that ties you to the past. Now, ask yourself, what would happen if I released this? Visualize the space it would create. Imagine the freedom, the lightness, the possibilities. Then, take action. If it's a belief, challenge it. If it's a possession, donate it. If it's an emotion, release it through forgiveness or prayer. This isn't easy work, and it doesn't happen overnight. But every step you take toward letting go is a step toward freedom. Christ's life was a testament to this. He released everything: comfort, safety, even his life, for a greater purpose. And in doing so, he transformed the world. Now, I want to leave you with a question to ponder deeply. What would your life look like if you truly let go of the old? Not just a little, but completely. How much more joy, love, and peace could flow into your life? In the next part, we'll dive into the ultimate reward of letting go, how creating space invites life's greatest blessings, and why the act of surrender is the gateway to abundance. The blessings of an open heart, how space invites abundance. When we release the old, something extraordinary happens. Space opens up. And in that space, life begins to flow in ways we never imagined. It's like clearing a garden choked with weeds and suddenly finding fertile soil ready to nurture the seeds of abundance. But this isn't just a poetic idea, it's a profound truth that Christ emphasized time and again. Let's begin with this question: what if the blessings meant for you are already here, but there's no room for them to take root? Picture a jar filled with murky water. No matter how much clean water you pour in, the jar remains cloudy until you first empty it. Our hearts and minds work the same way. To invite clarity, peace, and abundance, we must first let go of what's clouding our vision. Think of the story of the rich young ruler who asked Jesus how he could inherit eternal life. Jesus told him, "Sell all you have, give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven." The man walked away sorrowful, unable to release his possessions. It's a poignant reminder that clinging to what we think we need often blinds us to what we truly need. What treasure was waiting for him that he missed because his heart was too full of attachments? But the act of letting go isn't just about losing, it's about gaining. When we release the old, we invite transformation. Consider the seasons of nature. Trees shed their leaves in autumn, not because they are dying, but because they are preparing for renewal. If trees clung to their old leaves, they would never make space for new growth. What if we lived like that, trusting that letting go is the precursor to something greater? Let's make this personal. Imagine you're holding on to an old relationship that ended painfully. You replay the arguments, the disappointments, the what-ifs over and over in your mind. It feels impossible to let go because that relationship became a part of your identity. But by holding on to it, you're closing yourself off to the possibility of a new, healthier relationship. The space where love could thrive is occupied by old wounds. Letting go is not a betrayal of the past, it's an act of faith in the future. Christ's teachings are rich with this principle. Seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. Notice the order: seek first. Not cling first. Not hoard first. Seek. To seek is to move forward. To open your hands. To trust that what you release will return to you multiplied. But what exactly does life fill that space with? The answer is as individual as each of us. For some, it's the peace of finally forgiving themselves. For others, it's the joy of discovering a new purpose or the strength to embrace a challenge they once feared. And sometimes, it's something completely unexpected, a blessing so profound it changes everything. I once met a man who lost everything in a business failure. For years, he held on to bitterness and regret, convinced that his life was over. But one day, he made a radical choice. He let go of his need for control. He stopped dwelling on what he had lost and started asking, "What can I do with what I have left?" That shift created space for a new venture, one rooted in passion rather than fear. Today, he says that losing everything was the greatest blessing of his life because it forced him to let go of the old and embrace the new. But this transformation isn't passive, it requires action. So here's a challenge: what's one area of your life where you can create space today? Maybe it's your schedule, packed so tightly with commitments that there's no room for rest or spontaneity. Maybe it's your mind, cluttered with thoughts that no longer serve you. Or maybe it's your heart, weighed down by unresolved pain. Whatever it is, take one step, clear 1 hour, release one grudge, forgive one mistake. Watch how even a small act of letting go can create a ripple of change. Now, let's talk about abundance. Abundance isn't just about material wealth, it's about fullness of life. It's the joy of waking up each morning with a sense of purpose. It's the peace of knowing that you are enough, just as you are. It's the love that flows freely when your heart is open. This is the kind of abundance that Christ promised, "I have come that they may have life, and have it to the full." But abundance doesn't come to a closed fist. It requires an open heart. And opening your heart means taking risks. It means trusting that life will fill the space you create, even if you can't see how. It's a leap of faith. But it's a leap worth taking. So let me ask you one final question. What would your life look like if you embraced the fullness of abundance? Imagine a life free from the weight of the past, filled with love, joy, and purpose. What would it feel like to wake up each day knowing that the space you've created is being filled with life's greatest blessings? This is the gift of letting go. It's not just about releasing the old, it's about stepping into the new. And when you do, you'll discover that life is not about holding on, but about making space for all that is waiting for you. This is your invitation. The choice is yours. Will you keep carrying the weight? Or will you take the leap? Let go. Trust the process. And watch as life fills your open hands with blessings beyond measure.